It's August 1st, and having just completed the month of July, which is World Watercolor Month for artists, I thought I'd share with you a sketchbook tour of my latest completed sketchbook, my Canson XL Mixed Media sketchbook, filled with a lot of my World Watercolor Month prompts from this past month and last year, and a couple of other ideas that I've done to keep me from being bored or trying to come up with something to paint. How I use World Watercolor Month and Inktober for keeping me motivated throughout the year. Hello, welcome back, boardwalkers, to my art studio. I'm CB Mac, and on this channel you'll find tutorials about plein air painting with watercolors, gouache, ink, graphite, charcoal, and colored pencils. So let's dig into this topic, and we'll get started with this watercolor sketchbook tour. This painting on top here is a practice painting piece, and I've got it turned wrong, it looks like. Yeah, because my signature's right here in this corner. That's how that's supposed to look. But this is a painting I did while my daughter was in hospital that I was thinking of doing for a possible entry into Women in Watercolor Competition. This is not the entry that I put in. I did put in another entry. But entering competitions and participating in World Watercolor Month or Inktober throughout the year gives me ideas from the prompts of subjects to paint and ideas for future paintings. This is my fourth or fifth, I can't remember, sketchbook that I have finally completed. This is an Canson XL Mixed Media 98 pound or 160 gram paper weight. It's 9 by 12 inches or 22.9 by 30.5 centimeters. These sketchbooks are what I started using when I began my art journey, and I have come to realize how much I really love painting on 100% cotton watercolor paper. But now I still use these sketchbooks for, like it says on here, watercolor and pen and pencil art. This is my practicing with colored pencils and trying to figure out how to use them for the first time. This was back in November 14, it says, in the year 2022. So it's taken me a couple of years to finally get this sketchbook completed. There's 60 pages in this. And I usually on these kind of wire-bound sketchbooks just use one side of the paper. All right. Oh, this was for when I was drawing individual winter elements and drawing a practice composition for a competition for getting years free access to Cecile Yadro's gouache and art school back in 2023. This was in 2023. These are done with graphite pencil and colored pencil, just practicing to see, you know, what design I could come up with. This is where I was testing some cheap, known brand named markers. Cecile Yadro had done a video on how you could use alcohol markers. You know, put down a square of paint and then add a little bit of water to it and kind of use it like a watercolor. I don't know if you can see that real well. But this was back in January of 2023. This is a colored pencil sketching that I did in I think I did this for a YouTube video earlier this year, because this is 2024 dated. And it was done on Memorial Day, so that would be around May. And I was doing a 6-inch by 8-inch painting, drawing, sketching. This is a watercolor drawing of my town square, our city hall building in town. Oxford, Mississippi is famous for its double-decker festival, and every once in a while, around October or so, they have a competition for a t-shirt design for the next year's t-shirt for our double-decker festival. And so I was playing around with doing maybe a t-shirt design. I haven't entered the contest ever, and I'm seriously thinking about maybe trying to do that maybe this year. But we'll see what happens. I was pretty pleased with this one because it had a lot of perspective to get right, and seeing that I was using memory and a few reference photos, this turned out quite right. Actually, I think this is, I don't know if you can see it, this is an etcher painting that I did. I'm seeing the little llama in here talking with the statue of William Faulkner. This is a entry that I put in for one of their etcher competitions that I've taken part in. This is part of Cecile Yadro's art school for Valentine's Day, February 2023. The heart postcards. This is a gouache magnolia painting, also in her class. This is my attempt at doing a figure plus watercolor bubbles for a Margot Loft. I believe this is a Margot Loft challenge on the Paul Clark Facebook group. And as you can see, my perspective is off on the arm. This arm is really quite small and deformed looking compared to this one and to the rest of the painting. But for me learning how to do figures, I just try to see whether I can, paint the photograph or the reference or the subject that I'm looking at, just to see if I can get any resemblance to it. To keep motivated, a lot of people say they're not sure what they want to paint. They're not sure how to go about painting. Seeing that I have taught myself how to paint and draw without any formal education of painting and drawing, I just try to put in the shapes and try to match the colors to what I'm seeing. And the only way you're going to ever learn or get experience to get better and improve is to just try. Just give it a go. This is a iris painting of flowers in my garden from my own reference photo. This is a funny portrait. This is a portrait of my husband. I've been painting for about 3 or 4 years, and my husband said, "Do you think you could do a painting of me in the style of the Muppet character Beaker?" I don't know how many of you know of the Muppets character Beaker with the orange hair, with the little scientist white jacket. My husband is a soil scientist, so he has a white lab coat also. So, my husband's hair is normally not like this. Matter of fact, he's got a lot less hair. His hair is about this dark shade actually, right in here normally. And you can see how I did his portrait normally, but then to get the hair like Beaker, I added the extra spiky stuff. It's probably not the right way or the correct way to try and do this, but he was pleased with it and I was pleased with it. And you can see that some of the perspective of the tie and the shapes are a little off. But overall, I gave it a go and it came out pretty well. So, one of the tips I would give you is when you're doing art, don't beat yourself up too much. Don't worry about getting something that's perfect looking. This is not perfect looking in the dimensions or anything. If you notice here, this side of the shoulder is straight. This side is kind of lumped down. I mean, the perspective on this is really bad if I was going for a realistic view. But if I show this to anyone in my family, they automatically know it's my husband. Because some of the aspects of this is pretty close to realistic. And that. These are more Margot Loft weekly challenges on the Paul Clark Facebook group. We've got the Magnolia painting here. We've got a Easter lamb that I've done. And these are all done with watercolor. I've got another, I think that is a Margot Loft. Normally I have these labeled on the back. This is an insect on a cone flower for a Margot Loft painting. This one is done in watercolor. This one is, I believe this one is watercolor also, maybe gouache. This one might be gouache actually, because this one is a challenge from Cecile Yadro, I believe. This is a gouache radish competition for, painting for Cecile Yadro course. And then the lemons here are another gouache painting. Lemons in the Sun by Cecile Yadro. And this is week 15 of her garden challenge. Cecile Yadro had a garden challenge where for about 15 or 25 weeks she'd give you a prompt, a vegetable or an item from the garden to use as a prompt for the painting. This is watercolor. I believe this was for Cecile Yadro. This bottom one is a practice piece for watercolor that I was doing for my 2023 entry for Women in Watercolor. That's a competition here in the United States, but that is based in the United States, I should say, Women in Watercolor, but it's open to anybody around the world. It's an international, online-only competition. But that was a practice piece for an entry that I had done, I think, in 2023. This is not the exact painting, but it was a practice piece with my own reference material. These are wash strawberries. And the bottom half of this paper is, this was back in November, I believe, because I was coming up with ideas and thinking back in November 2023 of what name I could use for my YouTube channel and what name could I use for beginning to sell any of my artwork pieces if I decided to sell artwork pieces. And I believe this folded up, yes, this folded up paper is a graphite drawing of me trying to come up with a logo piece for my Country Boardwalk Studios. We have a boardwalk in the front of our yard in our house set up back when my husband had knee surgery and that. But it's come in handy since then with the amount of water and that we get with the spring rains. So, at this time, could I ask you, if you're enjoying this video, could I ask you to please subscribe to my channel, tap that thumbs up like button, share this video, and click on that bell icon to receive notifications for my upcoming videos. It makes a huge difference in the growth and support of my art channel. I've recently gotten 35 subscribers, and I would like to say thank you to those 35 subscribers. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I do hope you're enjoying and learning a little bit from my channel. Face practice. This is Cecilia's cute face practice from one of her courses on her school, art school. I was learning the placement of the eyes, how to draw eyes, how to get your proportions right. And these are some of the faces that I was able to come up with and draw. Some of these turned out really great. I was pretty impressed with how much I learned on that lesson. All right. I was talking earlier in the introduction about what do I use to keep myself motivated? I participate in July with World Watercolor Month because it gives you a prompt and you have to come up with a sketch or a painting of that prompt. And it gets you to think outside of the box sometimes and to see what you can create with the mention of that word. This is a set of raspberries that I've painted. I believe I did this painting along with my daughter one day when I was visiting her at her apartment. This is the start of World Watercolor Month in 2023, and I don't remember the prompts for that month, so I would have to go back and write those down. I've gotten to where this past year I finally wrote down the word prompt below each of my paintings that I've done. That way I could know what the prompt was. But these are the first 4 days of World Watercolor Month. These are the next set of prompts. And you can see how the watercolor, apparently I closed up this book because the watercolor has spread over to this side here. I didn't let it completely dry. These are prompt days 13 through 16. Prompts 17 through 20. I think these are supposed to be olives of some sort. The prompts for days 21, 22, 23, and 24. Prompts 25 through 28. I forgot, I don't know why I didn't date this one down here in the bottom. I had it up here in my paper of the scrolls. This is me practicing with gouache on how to mix paints, how to come up with your paint colors using a primary red, a primary blue, and a primary yellow, how to get extra greens and reds and blue shades by mixing various extra bits of white even into the paint to get your pastel colors. How to mix the paints to get your neutral colors. This is apparently a cool color palette of my primary gouache colors. And then this is a warmer, this is your cool yellow with my warm yellow, my primary red, cool red with my warm red, which looks almost orange, my primary blue, cool, with my ultramarine warm gouache color, and again adding the white to get your earth tones. My earth tones worked a lot better with the warmer colors than it did with the lighter cool colors. Sometimes I use other YouTubers' art challenges or prompts, or paint along with them to learn how to use new techniques. This is a Sketches and Scrubs gouache challenge course, one-day course that she had on how to paint a waterfall. How to practice your layering, your blending of the gouache. And the gouache medium, I started out painting with watercolor, and you work from light to dark, and usually you cannot put a light color on top of a dark color as well as you can with gouache. With gouache, the paint is a little more thick and opaque, and so you can put a lighter color on top of a darker color. So that was something that I really had to get used to learning. Here's the rest of that watercolor month. Back a couple of pages, we got to day 28. This is day 29 and day 30. And I'm not sure that I did day 31 because I don't see it on here. And there's 31 days in the month of July. But that's the World Watercolor 2023 prompts that I've done. Then in October, we have Inktober. And this was the first year in 2023, I think, that I did Inktober. I was learning a new medium. And to learn a new medium, I figured what better way to do it than use Inktober for the prompts. That way I could just practice and not have to worry about thinking of much while learning the prompts, while doing the prompts. Just learning the shading and how to put the ink on the paper. This is a variety of colored inks, because this is a warm gray ink. I had a set of cool gray ink pens, liners and markers, and a set of warm inks. And I did a little bit apparently of watercolor in my spider here. But these are the Inktober 2023 prompts. Day 9 through 12. And as you can see, some of my perspective is off a little bit. But overall, it's a very nice looking painting or sketching. They're not perfect, because as you can see, this is tilted when it's on a flat surface, and this one is flat and this one is flat. But it gives me a chance to learn new mediums. It gives me a chance to try different subjects that I would never think of trying to do. It gives me a chance to do some landscapes, some still life, some figure drawings. Some animals or insects. And use my imagination for some wild, crazy monsters. And it also gives me a chance to learn how to try to do the contrast of the with using values. Right here you can see that my values are a little bit too much on the heavy dark side of the values. This one's a little more balanced because I have a little more white space on here. So it really helps me learn what I can do and the areas of what I need to improve on. These are days 21 to 24 for Inktober. These are 25 to 28. And these are the 29 to 31. This was a online etcher session, I believe, with Andrew Penna as the artist. And I apologize with that last name if I have not pronounced it correctly. But this was a gouache painting session, I believe. And my try at that. These next 15 pages were an etcher's prompt. The etcher was having a monthly challenge competition. And I think I did it for about 15 days, and then I had something happen that I could not continue with the competition. But these are some of the paintings that I've done. The Northern Perula, my glasses, my favorite toy, I believe was what the prompt was, which is an Imperial Duncan yo-yo. These are more watercolor prompts from that competition, and this is during 2024, so this was just earlier this year, I believe. A landscape. And as you can tell, my perspective is off on this painting. If you look at it really closely, the roofs are going this way, and then all of a sudden, right here with this yellow building, I start putting them the other way. And if you look at it, it kind of, the blue building and this yellow building look like the roofs are going the other direction too. So it's kind of like the buildings are all going with the roofs this direction until you get somewhere in here, and then they switch sides. So not all your paintings are going to be masterpieces, but you can learn from them. And I've learned from this one that I have got to be a little more mindful on my perspective of the rooftops. But it was a fun challenge, and I was pleased with it at the time. And I've learned quite a bit from doing these and how to improve on them. These are a couple more challenges. This is a painting of all the art supplies that I have. Oh, I remember this prompt. This prompt was my favorite childhood cartoon. And when I was a kid, they didn't really have a lot of cartoons. We had maybe Bugs Bunny. But my favorite cartoon comic strip character was Snoopy in Woodstock. This space here, supposedly the prompt was a beloved memory. And I have so many beloved memories. I think I left that one blank because it was too hard to do. This is an attempted portrait of my youngest son, done in graphite and watercolor. Another couple of watercolor paintings, peonies, and the shed in our yard that I hope to one day turn into my art studio. Another couple of prompts for the etcher competition. And I believe these were probably the last ones of the prompts from that. Now we're into the start of this year's World Watercolor Month. And I decided this year, like I said, I would put the prompt names down for each of the days. That way I could, remember what the prompt was and look back on it to see how well I did. And that's why these are in a sketchbook, so that I can go back and look at them and see what I learned, see how to improve, maybe even repaint some of these to see how I can improve and make them a little better. This is today 8. These are day 9 through 14. And some of these prompts are really hard to come up with some stuff. Like this one here. I decided to use the trunk of a tree because I had thought of doing a trunk. But then when I saw the next one was buried, I thought, well, I'll save the trunk, the treasure chest trunk, for that prompt instead of using it for this prompt. So sometimes there are many different choices you can use for the prompts, and it's hard to settle down to just one thing that you would like to use. Like for trunk, you could use the tree, you could use a trunk that holds things, you could use an elephant's trunk. There's just so many different choices, and sometimes that makes it hard for you to decide what to do too, and you get overwhelmed. But I love using World Watercolor Month and Inktober and various challenges throughout the year to help make deciding what to paint a little easier. Because then if I'm given a word or an idea, I can try to put it down on paper and see if I can come up with some sort of resemblance to it. It doesn't have to be realistic. It just has to give the suggestion of the object. And it doesn't have to be a masterpiece. As long as I'm happy with it as the artist, that's all that truly matters. I do not have to compete with any other artist, really. I'm not competing with any other artist when I'm doing these challenges. Yes, it's nice to see what other artists are doing for those same prompts. And yes, I get inspired by those. But truly, when I am doing my own artwork, the only person I am competing with is myself. And as tip, I give that to you. Don't worry about trying to compete with any other artists. Don't worry about trying to find your style or trying to paint like another artist. Just enjoy putting the paint or the ink or the graphite down on the paper and creating something that gives you joy, happiness, and peace of mind, just to relax your mind and to, give you peace of mind, to help you relax and just create something beautiful that you like. And these are the last 5 days of World Watercolor Month. And then I'm back to those other two things. So this was the 5th, I believe, sketchbook that I have finished. And like I said at the beginning, I use these to help alleviate that question of, what am I going to paint today? How do I need to paint it today? And what can I use from this to help keep me motivated to come up with designs and artworks of my own? I'll put some affiliated links in the description below for the Canson Mixed Media Sketchbook. That means that I will get a small commission from purchases made through Amazon if you click on those links and use those links. Also, in the description below, feel free to post any comments or questions you'd like to ask me. I do read each and every comment, and although I can't reply to all of them, I will try to answer the questions. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. Goodbye for now.